Since the turn of the 21st century, it has become increasingly difficult to raise children in the most upright way. And this is because since the advent of the digital age, for some reason or another, parents and guardians are losing the essence of good parenting. Today, I'll be talking about 6 things that I'll teach my children, and I'm sure that you have a lot of things to learn from it. Hi there, I'm Olushola, and I give practicable wisdom. If it's your first time listening to me, I must say that you've been missing out on a whole lot. Well, it's never too late. Welcome to the club. All right, while at it, I think it's a very good time to say that you should kindly subscribe to our channel if you still haven't. I'm waiting, don't procrastinate. Please subscribe. Thank you. All right, it's so good to be sharing this with you today. The very reason I'm putting this out there is because at some point a year ago, I once did a video of 4 things that I'll teach my kids, and I must say that that video is one of the videos that I resonated with the hearts of most parents who view my content. And I think it was so beautiful because I shared about 4 practical things that I would love to teach my children. Now this is extremely important, and I thought to myself, I said, you know what, how about I expound on this? That was a 1 minute 30-second video. This should be a whole lot much interesting because I'll get to share more intricate details and give a step-by-step basis on how parents listening to this can help. So I must say that I had to, for the sake of this video, just shorten to about 6 points. Okay, there are about 20 or 25 other things that I will really love to teach my kids. However, for the sake of this video, I'm going to give you 6 things that I'll be teaching my kids, and I'm saying it for your learning because I'm sure there'll be a whole lot for you to glean from. So number 1, without further ado, is contentment. I'm sure at this juncture some of you could be smiling. Yes, contentment. You see, society by default breeds discontentment amongst adults, talk less of children. Since the 1970s, the average child in the United States has been exposed to about 500 adverts per day. Well, as ridiculous as that sounds, is nothing to be compared to what is currently obtainable today, because every single day, on the average, since the 2010s or the 2020s that we are in right now, an average child is exposed to 5,000 adverts, from billboards to television ads to flyers to conversations here and there. There are things calling for not just their attention but also piquing their interest. From candies to baby dolls to video games, whatever it is, these kids are picking up on it. And then by default, you begin to have kids who want a lot of things. Mommy buy me this, daddy buy this, I want this, I need this. And then they begin to throw tantrums at their parents when they do not have their way with specific things. So you see, for example, a child who already has hundreds of toys but naturally just loses interest in those particular ones because they want the next one. Well, whether you like it or not, little by little, bit by bit, poco a poco, you're beginning to have a case where your children begin to lust after or long after specific things, despite having other things that can give them the same desired effect. So if there's one thing I'm going to teach my kids, it's going to be simple: that you cannot have your way with everything. You cannot have your way with everything. It always starts from when they're younger. I do not want to have a child. And look, man, I understand that we many times we kind of explain things away and we usually hide under our verbosity. I know we always make statements like, children are narcissistic, gormandizing, self-indulging. We always make so many statements just to explain away the fact that, an average child could be greedy. And trust me, I do not think I want to explain that away because I understand that to a very given extent, yes, it is part of the human nature, but I believe also that we are responsible for shaping the character and the behavior of a child, and the best place and time to do that is from childhood. So as a parent, you need to understand that you are not just a progenitor who births an offspring. You are a molder of destiny. You are a molder of your child and how your child will turn out. So this is very, 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 very important. So we'll make statements like, oh, the children are narcissistic, that they seek only gratification, so let them have their way. Well, if you let them have their way, you begin to create an endless cycle of way having that never stops. So such a child who hasn't learnt, the difference between needs and wants begins to grow up, bit by bit by bit by bit by bit through their primary school phases, high school, through the university, all through those stages, and become adults who still do not know the difference between needs and wants. So here's what I usually advise. Number one, do not let your children have everything they want. This is important. Do not let your children have everything they want. You need to let them know that even if you might be financially capable to be able to produce or give them every single thing that they want at every given point in time, life doesn't work that way. In life, you cannot have everything you want. Let them know. I might have the capacity as your parent or as your dad to make something available, to make something possible, but I can choose not to give it to you. It's also part of the training, because usually life doesn't always give us every single thing we wish for. So it's, I would say, a very important training. And then the second thing I want to say is that you need to let your children be grateful for what they have and politely ask for what they need. Now, make them be grateful for what they already have and then politely ask for what they need. Listen, the best time to teach your children gratitude and contentment is now. If you do not create a habit in them where they are grateful for every single thing, both the highest to the barest minimum that you do for them, there's no other time for them to teach them. I don't know how many of you grew up in, my similar kind of setting. I grew up in sub-Saharan Africa. I grew up in Nigeria, Lagos State. I'm from a tribe in Nigeria that we call the Yorubas. And Yorubas are known for respect a lot, which is one of the other points I'm going to come to later, or I might come to later. So in the part of Nigeria that I'm from, we are always taught to say thank you whenever we get anything. I mean, thank you with so much respect and suffix at the end of everything. You hear stuff like, thank you, sir. I'm grateful, sir. In fact, it's so overwhelming that there's this joke that Yoruba people have a greeting for everything. There's Yoruba people who can greet you and say, thank you for this one, thank you for that one. So after telling you thank you for what you gave us that particular day, in the night we'll say thank you. The next day we will say thank you. You hear things like Eshewan, Esheun kote Eshe. And then the funny thing is, they won't just end there. In about 2 weeks to come, they will still tell you thank you for what you did 2 weeks ago. Esheun kote Eshe fumi lose to koja, or stuff like that. So it's really beautiful. So I was trained that way, but there's something that did to me. It helped me recognize the beauty in gifts. And it also helped me quickly understand that when people go out of their way to do something for you, you ought to recognize the sacrifice that went into that thing they did that put a smile on your face. And it just helps me appreciate it. And that's why it also helps me to not be an entitled human being. I don't expect anything from anyone. If you give to me, I'm so appreciative. So this is a really important thing to teach your children. Let them be grateful. Teach them how to be grateful. Treat them how to appreciate everything that they have. And then you will now set the tone to help them to ask politely for what they want, or rather for what they need. So when you want something, either a toy, pocket money, or whatever it is, or even it could even be a need, you shouldn't ask like an entitled fellow. You have to stop that. So the best time to always do that is early enough. Right from when we're young, we're always made to understand that there's a formula to which to ask things from your parents. First and foremost, you must have been a good boy. It's very important. You must have been a good boy. You must have behaved properly. You must have done quite a number of things. And this is not really to help you qualify, because when you're given an extent, your parents love you unconditionally, quote and unquote. But then this helps you at least, position yourself to be in their good books, good enough for them to smile at your requests. So this is very important. Help them to ask politely for exactly what they need. And then the final thing that I would say you should let your children understand when it comes to contentment is you need to help them understand the difference between wants and needs. This is important. Not everything you want is needed. Not everything that is lawful is expedient. Not every... Do you know how many things I want? Ladies and gentlemen, I want an LX600. Just in case any of you can buy it from me. It's not too expensive. It's about £250. 250,000 pounds rather. So in case you feel like dashing me, I don't mind though. In case you love me. Just teasing. But I want a more exotic car. I want an exotic house. I want several things. I want. But then the question will be, at given points in time, yes, it's okay sometimes to satisfy your wants, but many times in life, we need to focus more on the needs, and we need to learn to abound and abase. Let your children understand that there's a time for everything, that not all of their cravings, not all of their needs, not all of their wants will even be satisfied. Help them understand, help them to have a scale of preference. Help them to understand that they will not always have everything that they want in life. So this is very crucial. That way you'll be able to create a balance and have a well-rounded child. And this is very crucial because society is designed in such a way that the pressures of life will come. And only a child that is grounded in contentment will be able to stand this ground, in the midst of the enticing riches that the world has on offer. This is important because day in, day out, there are situations of, scams, money launderings, and whatever it is. And then I found out that for some children, they do not even have, thresholds for anything. Like, you don't get, like, there's no, how do I put it? There's no restraint, no moral compass. They go for anything. They damn the process. According to them, the end justifies the means. Well, that's not true. The end doesn't justify the means. The means justifies or nullifies itself, because it is what gives legitimacy to the end product. You understand my point? So no matter how, in football, no matter how beautiful the goal you scored was, if it was offside, it will not count. You understand? So children need to understand that how they arrive at something is as important as what they arrived at. So teaching them contentment from a very early age will help you put this into proper balance and perspective. Teach your children contentment. Not all that glitters is gold. Not all that glitters is gold. Not everything enticing should you have to get at the same time. If not, they will do all that they have to do to get all that they want to get to, and it might not be pleasing to your eye. So sometimes you could be creating a monster by giving your child every single thing that they ask for. All right, so I really do hope that that point is clear. Number 2 thing I'll teach my child: articulation and knowledgeability. Now, don't be too carried away with the weight of those words. I'll teach my child to be articulate, and I'll also teach my child to be knowledgeable. Now, this cannot be overstated. Like I always say, it will not matter what you know if you do not have the capacity or the ability to express what you know. No one is going to pay you $1 million for a thought in your mind until you are able to effectively express it and let them know that you know, or let them know that you are able to recreate a particular skill on demand. Then you will not be able to cash in, on the positive effect of what you know. So this is extremely important. I'm going to teach my children not just only to be knowledgeable, but also to be articulate enough. You must be able to express yourself, both in writing and in speaking. This is important. So this has a wider spectrum. There's a wider point of view to this, but I'll just explain it as quickly as possible. So first and foremost, on one hand, I'll teach my child to be knowledgeable. My children have to, have solid deposits in them, enough for them to be able to articulate it. See, it's one thing for you to say, it's one thing for you to have an articulate child. It's another thing for you to have a knowledgeable child. I'll explain what that means. Listen, an articulate child without a solid knowledge base is a high-sounding brass, or somebody with so much verbosity but no content, okay? And that way you can read in between the lines. There's a difference between a child who can speak and a child who truly knows, right? But then on the other hand also, if your child knows so much but cannot say it, it means absolutely nothing, okay? So there's a balance to it, because both work hand in hand to reach greater effectiveness, all right? So first and foremost, I'd say to parents, try and fill your children with as much knowledge as possible. Let them take on good habits. Read. See, let them read. Let them take up. Reading is not always so enticing, at least at the very early stages, but it can become a part of them, a part and parcel of how they've been living their lives. I have a friend who turned out not only to be a first-class student, but also top her class, at an international fashion school. And then she told me that, look, bro, most of what I know is down to my parents. From early enough, we were able to, she said that whenever they wronged their parents, they punished them with books. It was that serious. I'm not saying you should go for punitive measures like that. I'm just saying that, it was that crazy. They made them love it. And you need to understand, it's the same way you make your children love Cerelac. Make them love a particular kind of food. Make them do something. Don't tell me you cannot make them have good habits. Initially, we said children are, self-indulging. They may not like it at the beginning, but these good habits are built bit by bit, little by little, so it becomes a part of them. So I'll just say you need to let them develop the right habits. And the interesting thing now, when with the advent of visual media, it's even become easy for children to be able to play while learning. There are some YouTube videos that are designed to help them be knowledgeable. This is important. This is very important. I remember from, as a child from very early age, I just loved current affairs a lot. I just loved learning some very weird things. So, for example, there was a time where I knew, the capitals of pretty much every country, pretty much well over 50% of the countries of the world. And I knew literally every country in the world. I knew when the Vatican City really came into being, I think 2002, thereabout. I knew all the countries you could think of. I even used to play games of name, animal, place, thing. No one could beat me in countries. From A, I'll do Albania. B, I'll do Bosnia and Herzegovina. Do Cyprus. Do Dominican Republic. Do Ecuador. Do F, I'll do Fyrom. Or Fiji Islands. I'll just do all manner of interesting things. I train my memory little by little. So the thing is, you could be doing these things but not really know the day you need them or the time that you're able to take into the deeper recesses of those skills. And then little did I know that the social geography that I learned from early would one day help me. I could remember, I think a couple of years ago, I was in the airport and then I saw I think a Polish national. We were just talking. I said, "Hey, how you doing? You're from Poland." And I said, "Oh, that's fine." I talked about Warsaw. Talked about where he's from and the number. And he looked at me and like, "Oh, yo, yeah." And then we were able to relate. You need to understand that knowledge is the fuel for the mind. It's the fuel for the mind. It's what keeps your mind going. When I was young, I did not have the luxury of going abroad on vacation and many other things. Lost my dad at an early age. So it was my widowed mom who was, fending for us and a number of things. So I'll see some friends, going abroad for summer, and doing all manner and all. Got to the university was the same thing and everything. So I told myself when I was growing up, I said something to myself I'll never forget. I said, I might not be privileged enough to travel the world with a touche passport and all the visas, that everyone has ever seen, but I can travel the world with my mind. So every single time I open a book to read, I was so fascinated about what's happening in these countries without even being there. So sometimes I could even match people who have traveled. Yes, they might have experienced it with their eyes, but I'm also experiencing it with my mind. And nothing beats the University of Imagination. Nothing. Absolutely nothing beats it. So I would say that let your children, open up themselves to reading and learning. Reading and learning is very, very, very important. At the age of 12, I wrote my very first book, for example. It was a book. Guess what? A current affairs book. Although it never got published, I dropped it on my mom's chair, told her to go through it. I can't remember what happened, but I never saw the book again. But there are many of the things I've gleaned still remain in my mind. First man to get to Spain, first man to get to the moon, the height of Mount Everest, all of these things, they're still in the mind. But one thing he always does is that he just helps me broadens your horizon. So please let your children imbibe as much knowledge as possible. This is very important. Knowledge about anything fruitful. Then on the other hand, teach them to be articulate enough to be able to express the things they know. Look at it. Look at me. I'm effectively expressing all the things that I know to you right now. Some of the things I know to you right now. So it's very, 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 very important. Now, some things can help articulation. First thing is you have to encourage it. Don't raise shy and timid children. Don't, because timidity usually starts from small. You get to the university and see children who cannot stand in front of a class and present their case. Can't look up and talk up to people. They are products of bad parenting. Because their parents for the longest have always flogged them every time they try to speak up for themselves. Maybe within the home setting. No, you must give them an in-room. Can I say something very weird? Sometimes you have to give children the opportunity to also disagree with you. Let them disagree. Your children can agree to disagree. You guys can disagree to also agree. You have to create platforms like that for them. Let them express themselves. Let them talk to you. Let them lead family devotion. Let them do so many things. Charisma can also be, nurtured in the process. Another thing also that I'll say will help is let them be part of particular groups in school that help enhance such kind of skills. Early enough, I think I was part of the debaters club in school. I remember then also as I kept on going, I was part of drama. So from early enough, I was already exposed to the crowd. Next thing I got to university as part of public speaking class. So the strangest thing for me is I do not think I ever cake under pressure when I want to talk to you. In fact, it fuels me. I can speak to 1 million people and not quake right now. Not because I was born that way, okay? Even though you could be born with natural inclinations, right? However, it is because I can speak to 1 million people today and not quake because I once spoke to 10 and did not buckle. Do you understand? So this is extremely vital. You need to nurture it. Trust me, like I said, you are the molder of your kids. The number 3 thing I would love to teach my child is I would love to teach my children at least one high income skill. Now, I know you're there wondering, high income skill for a child. Don't worry, I'll demystify it for you in a bit. An high income skill doesn't have to be what you think it is. An high income skill could just be something that looks like a hobby but could actually generate so much money for them in the future. It could be a second language or a third language, for example. It could be coding. It could be a musical instrument. It literally could be anything. And one more thing, this could even include sports. Yes, some of those very little things, your child performing well and let me just give you a very quick lowdown of all of this. For example, are you aware that if you teach your children a second language or a third language, it actually could enhance or increase their chances of getting a high paying job much later in the future? And are you also aware that the fastest time to teach them another language is actually while they're young? Okay, did you know that the part of the brain responsible for language formation is the renic area and the Broca's area of the left hemisphere of a child's brain, or of a human being's brain? And then because of some extra elasticity or early formation in a child's brain or mind, it is easier for you to teach a child a fresh language than it is for you to teach an adult. I'm telling you. In fact, I keep on saying this every single time, but the number one thing I failed at in my life is that I failed to become a hyper polyglot like I wanted to. I actually wanted to be a person who speaks like 8 languages. I started, I speak English, Yoruba, Pidgin, but I wanted to learn how to speak Spanish and Portuguese and then Italian later. So I started at some point learning Spanish. It went really amazing. It was good. I was on a massive high, and then the entire process dwindled. So right now, my Spanish is pretty terrible, right? However, but did you know that if you could teach your children from a very early age to pick up these things, it will just grow with them, or rather they will grow with it and it becomes a part and parcel of them. Are you aware? For example, are you aware that Spanish language is the second most spoken indigenous language in the world? I bet you never knew. The last I checked, Spanish language was spoken by, I think, almost 500 million people indigenously. Indigenous speakers, okay? Which means that indigenous, like that is the official language of the country, like indigenously. And it's only behind, I think, the Chinese Mandarin, in that particular hierarchy. So, for example, it basically means it's a high income skill, right? The whole of Latin America, or most of Latin America, good parts of Europe, they speak Spanish. They speak Spanish. I think even French also. So things like this, you need to, and it also positions you to be like a global citizen. If your child wants to become a diplomat later, or someone who does treaties, and pretty much world trade, it puts you at an advantage. Stuff like that. Another thing also, let your child learn tech skills. And by the way, on language, also start by teaching them your indigenous language. There is nothing cool about your child not being able to speak your language. Ọmọ Yorùbá ni mi máa sọ, ọmọ mi máa sọ. Wọ́n sọ dáadáa, wọ́n gbọ́ dáadáa, wọ́n fèdè fọn. My best songs are in Yoruba. My greatest musician of all time is Chief Commander Ebenezer Obey. He is Yoruba, and there is nothing, absolutely nothing trashy about that. There's nothing trenches about it. Your children should also bear your indigenous names. Well, according to what I feel, they should have, even if it's not their main name, at least the second name or the third name. They should have it. You must stop letting your children get out of touch with their culture. It's wrong now. You start giving your child Jade, that's fine. What's the second name? Does he have anything that can link him to his roots? There ought to be something. Another thing, like I said, let your children learn high-tech skills. Stuff like coding, for example. Are you aware that there are now coding academies for children during holidays? I never knew. I also found out myself. Very interestingly, a couple of months back, a friend's little cousin was having a code class. She's about 10 or 11. And I'm like, whoa, catch them young. The world is going fully digital. Tech skills are pretty much going to be the next big thing over the next couple of decades and even centuries. So why then should I have my child disadvantaged? So these things can put your child on the front foot. Another thing also, musical instruments. Let them learn musical instruments. Let them, learn to play this. It could start as a hobby, but could turn out as a vocation later on. This is very important. Another thing, sports. If you notice that your child has a penchant for kicking anything he finds on the wall or throwing anything up in the fire, that could be a sign that your child is the next Cristiano Ronaldo. Yes. Don't let him be a Messi, but Cristiano Ronaldo. Yes, Ronaldo fans in the house. Check it out. Very important. But in all you do, make sure your child supports Manchester United and not Arsenal. Please, I beg you. You need to watch out for these signals. Let your children harness those potentials. Stop raising children with unrealized potentials. I know it's not easy, but parenting takes a lot of intentionality. It does. And this leads me to the very fourth point, which is faith in God. Yes, faith in God. You see, in the world where people are gradually losing the essence and the importance of staying connected to God, you have to teach your children just that. To never lose their faith in God. To be grounded enough in God early enough. I'll tell you why. It's because forever and ever and ever, the advantages overthrow and outweigh the disadvantages. Not only will they grow up to be, morally upright beings, not only will they grow up to be people who let the love of God shine through their hearts, but they will also grow up to be better rounded people. You need to imbibe into the core of their being the truth of the message of God, Christ, and salvation early enough. Like I always say, the greatest real estate you can ever buy for your child is faith in God. Faith in God. Faith in God. With that, they will never go astray. This is very, very, very important. Through devotions, through Bible studies, through prayers, by taking them to church. Yes, we're in a world where a lot of people see religious activities as unnecessary. Everyone is chasing the bag. Everyone is doing so many things. I want you to understand something. Your children are likelier to do the things they see you do than the things you say, because children are easily impressionable. They're very impressionable. They watch you and do the same thing. And you weren't any different when you were young. Neither will your children be any different. You have to set the right example. And I would say that part of this setting example has to be with their moral upbringing also. And not just that, also the relationship with God, because when all is said and done, that's what ought to matter the most. You need to let them understand that spirituality is no joke and should be part of the very essence of their lives. This is important. This is very, very, very crucial. Very, very, very crucial. And in case you're watching this and you don't have any religious maybe beliefs or inclinations or anything, I recommend Christ. Okay, and when you come to him, he's not going to be religion. It's going to be a relationship. Anyways, this is not the video for that, but I'll just advise that you let your children have faith in God, imbibe it in them early enough, and also let them have the right moral upbringing. Let them know the do's and don'ts. Let them know what is right and let them know what is wrong. The gray areas, in my opinion, don't exist. It's either right or it's wrong. Very, very, very crucial. And this leads me to the fifth thing that I'll teach my children: financial literacy. I cannot talk about this enough. Statistics have shown that only 33% of adults worldwide are financially literate. These statistics are very, very, very alarming. But guess what, parents? Your children will be the next adults in a couple of years. And your ability or inability to teach them financial literacy could be contributing to that factor. I would say in the area of finance, using the word or the phrase "catch them young" is very important. You need to teach them what to do. You need to teach them money early enough. Teach them that money is a messenger and money should never be the instructor. You need to understand that they need to learn to wield the tool called money and not money being what controls them. You need to teach them financial literacy so they would understand self-control, understand planning, understand budgeting, understand expenditure, understand profit and loss, understand revenue, turnover. Listen, I'm not saying terminology that cannot be understood. You can teach it to them in the most Montessori way. I don't know how to use it. I don't know if that's the right thing to say. Teach them in the most practical way possible. Teach them plus and minus. One other thing I wanted to say is that you could also practicalize it to your kids by maybe giving them some pocket money and tell them that if I have so and so and so and so at the end of the month from you, I'll add more money to it. Teach them to trade. I mean, not trade like go online, do cryptocurrency or forex trading. No. I'm talking about teach them to buy stuff with their money, teach them to invest in something. It could even be a joke. Tell them, you know what, I want to buy something. If I sell it off properly, I could give you so and so. Expose them to financial literacy early enough. This does two things. Number one, it helps them not be taken aback when they grow up, right? And number two, it helps them be the ones to control money and not the other way around. You know, when we were younger, one of the very important things that was imbibed or, inculcated into many of us was the culture of savings. So in the part of the world that I'm from, there's something we call kolo. It's called a piggy bank. It's like a box where you just go and throw money into it. So right from when we were young, we used to have kolo, we had two children in the house. I'm the second and the last. So I have an elder brother. He was a better saver than I ever was. So when we were younger, he had kolo. He had this thing. He just go, come back, pocket money, put it inside. While me, I've spent everything. Quite interesting. So the craziest part is at like maybe the end of the year or every 6 months or quarterly and all, he'll just now open his kolo. So he's been saving for the longest, right? So end of the year, it's Christmas, and then he opens the kolo and you're seeing 5,000 naira, 30 something thousand naira. Like, oh my god, and me, I have nothing to show for. So you need to understand that these things are important. The sooner your children understood these things, the better for them. Help them understand that you must not eat with 10 fingers. You must not eat with 10 fingers. Help your children understand that they must not eat with 10 fingers. Not every money that touches your hand is for spending. Not every funds that reaches your pocket is for making merry. Not every single amount of money a visitor gives to you must be spent on sweet and babadudu. No, you must keep some for the rainy day. And not only the rainy day, you must keep some for investment. You must keep some for giving other people. You need to let them understand the essence of budgeting. They must draw up a scale of preference. And not every single thing they want must be bought. This is important. The degree to which your child is financially literate will say a lot on how they spend even while they are in school. Track it. Track the progress, teach them early enough. I do not think you have to necessarily register them for programs like that. If you can afford it, please do. The sooner the better. But you can teach them basic things just by yourself. Let them have an account. Show them how much is in their account. Help them build. You could just do several things. Even teach them trade. Tell them to sell something. That's one of the things I'm going to do. I'm going to teach my children to be amazing salesmen like their father. God. I have this joke where I say I can sell anything to anybody. Is that interesting? But I had to build the skill as I went on in life. You need to find a way to look at the selling point of the product. Teach them these things. Financial literacy, very, very important. So that way they will not develop bad habits. Teach them what it means to be risk averse. Teach them what it means to invest wisely. Teach them portfolio management. I'm not saying you teach a 2-year-old. I'm saying as they begin to grow older and older and older, you teach them the right things. And this leads me to the 6th point, which is my final point. The final thing I'll teach my children is to be themselves. Teach your children to be themselves. No pressures, no hustles. Allow your children make mistakes. Let kids be kids at times. You need to let kids be kids. What's a 2-year-old child doing creating content for Facebook every day after school? Some of you have turned your children to props for content creation. Some of you have turned a 2-year-old child, 3-year-old child, in my opinion, has no business doing makeup. Let children be children. There are specific clothes you should not get for them. Specific things you should not do. This is extremely crucial. You need to let kids be kids. Allow them make mistakes. Correct them. That's why you're there. I just feel this is very important. I'm going to let my children be themselves. I'm going to let them grow up to be what God wants them to be. I'm not going to be that kind of parent that wakes up and carves out a life for them and just says, my child is going to take after my empire when he's done with school. My child is going to be a lawyer. Many of the parents from, the 1940s in Nigeria through to about even the early 2000s made that mistake. They tried to tailor a path for their children. He must be a lawyer, an engineer, or a doctor, right? I think that's what they always do. One of those 3 vocations and then in this day and age, you need to understand that those are not even the parts that prove to be the most successful. And then many of them found out later, but it's already been too late because they forced a particular course path for their child. And then the children ended up just limiting other potentials or things that could have happened. Let your children be what they want to be. You know, I was telling someone, I said, if you had told parents 10 years ago, what am I saying? Scratch that. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, that content creation would be a full-time job for specific people. Or some people wake up and say, I want to be a YouTuber. It would have been a lie. It just shows you that times are changing. New eras are coming. There are paradigm shifts every now and then. Let your children be what they want to be. Or better still, let them be what God wants them to be. Let them fulfill their potential in life. This is extremely important. Potential fulfillment in its actual sense is not dependent on what you want for your child. Is your child emptying himself or him or herself before they die? This is very crucial. Let your children be children. Let them, afford them room. Don't be the parents that doesn't allow their children a breathing space to make mistakes. No, they cannot lead perfect lives. Oh, you yourself talking, don't be a hypocrite. Are you perfect? When they make mistakes, be quick to correct them. But in the midst of the correction, ensure that you do not dampen the image they have of themselves. Yes, I'm going to let my children be kids. And this leads me to the very end of the video, where I would like to make a very important point. For every single parent watching this, there's something I want to share with you. I know some of you are watching this video and you're wondering, saying, Olushola, you don't understand, it's not easy, it's been this, it's been that, I work 4 jobs, how do I have time to train for so and so practice, how do I do this. Here's what I want to say. I know it's hard, I know it's difficult, but we have to learn to make out time for the things we love. I would rather have 50,000 pounds in my account and have quality children who lead quality lives than have 50 billion pounds in my account with children who are wayward and are not living life to the full. Parenting, whether you like it or not, is a profession. I always make a statement that if all you do in life is to raise amazing children, you've done a lot for yourself. Intentionality will demand a lot from you, but at the very end, it will all be worth it. So I'll just say, be intentional about your kids, listen to them, care for them genuinely. And, one of my business mentors always says, listen to your business and you know exactly what to improve and what not to touch. The same works for children. When you listen to them, when you're there, when you're at their beck and call, that way you know exactly what areas to work on and, what areas to improve upon. I think this leads me to the official end of this video. It is my prayer that everyone who has watched this video has learned a thing or two, and I do hope that you have learned enough to at least be able to replicate, teach your children, or also add up any other points. Trust me, like I said, there are so many more points, but very important, I want you to do me a favor. Please like this video, comment so you can reach a whole lot more people, and if you are yet to subscribe, I have just one plea. Please press the subscribe button and also turn on notification so you'll be one of the very first people to know when I post a new video, because there's so much more juice coming. All right, there's a particular way I like to end my video. Can you do it with me? All right, let's go. 1, 2, 3. Ireo. Thank you so much, guys. Have an amazing time.